Hello, everybody. I don't know why I start my intros off like I'm such a happy person. I really hate life. Sorry. I've been sick recently and I wasn't able to post, but I'm back. And I don't sound like a dude. Like, I don't think I do. Let's get into the video. After reading several more patients' files, I'm starting to become a little concerned. I have the notion that there's some sort of pattern here, but can't quite define it yet. I'm especially concerned about the last male patient's claims about being shocked or mistreated. We do not do shock therapy here. Shock therapy would actually be a possible treatment for severe unresponsive depression, which is exactly what he has. But we don't do that here. While reading through files last night, one girl's transcript leapt out at me. I know it's strongly part of the pattern I'm sensing, but I still can't quite put it together. That sound. Can I have some of that? The coffee. Come on, it's just coffee. Give it to me! Alright. I'll tell you. But this better not be a trick. Promise? Where do you want me to start? Okay. It was class, honestly. Class. Think it's ridiculous that someone like me could have gone to college. It's actually how I ended up like this. My family's not rich, but that doesn't surprise you. We're not illegals, though. Just new to the country and not well off. I was the first one in my family to get into a good college. My older sister screwed around in high school, but I worked myself half to death. I figured once I got in, it's all set. I could relax. Then I actually got there. Everyone around me seemed so mature. So immature. So stupid. They partied all the time. They never studied. Never did their homework. Nothing. Half of them didn't even show up to class. The football players, they didn't even take the exams. I couldn't understand it. Did they have any idea how much college costs? I still don't know. My parents called me about 3 months in. I was taking over the maximum amount of classes because we only had enough money for 3 years between the family and the scholarship I'd earned. I had to graduate in 3 years. That was the plan. They told me that my gran was sick. The family was going to spend money on her health care. I was fine. I said, fine, that's great. I love Gran. I was in denial for a little. There I thought maybe I'll just get some scholarships. Maybe I can just work. Maybe I can make this work. Student loans, maybe? The thoughts of all the debate terrified me. I'd never ever work off the amounts they were talking about. My parents always said, we didn't come here just to live this true all over. Just to try all over again. A month or so out from the end of the first semester, I got an email about a scholarship that was considering me. I thought all my problems were solved. It was a full ride. But the deadline for an essay submission was the next day. No problem, I figured. I had a test in 4 classes with large amounts of homework, but I could do this. This was important. So I drank some coffee, stayed up late, fell asleep at 5 in the morning. The next day I was tired and uncomfortable, and I did a little worse on the test than I wanted. But I got it all done. I got an email response to my submission that night. They liked my essay. I was so happy until I read that I was just the next pool. The next level required an in-depth analysis of an industry, 30 pages of an industrious 30 pages, and it was due in a few days. Had everyone else known about this for months? Had the other candidates had all the time to work and in the world to finish the work? Since I was on my mind, I chose a student loan industry. That was probably a mistake. All I learned was how screwed I would be if I didn't get this scholarship. $100,000 or more for 3 to 4 years. And no rights, no bankruptcy, no protections. It was all worse than a loan shark deal. And from my neighborhood, I knew how bad loan sharks could be. Hit the coffee hard. A neighbor in the dorms gave me some pills, but I didn't feel good about it. I left them in my backpack. I got maybe 3 hours of sleep that night, and for the next few days, struggling to get through all my classes, homework, tests, and then also to do this huge paper. I knew my classwork was suffering, but a few days won't ruin my grades. This scholarship was important. I was at my limits when I submitted that damn 30-paper test. Burnt out, exhausted, and fired on a week of caffeine and no sleep. I slept terribly that night, but it was still an incredible relief. I woke up to an email congratulating me on being one of the 5 candidates remaining in the nation. I didn't understand. They had reviewed all 30-page papers overnight, or had everyone else failed to get it done in time? Maybe that was it. Maybe they only got 5 papers. Maybe no one else had the time. They wanted a graduate level theory in 2 weeks. I spent the entire day stunned. I couldn't even comprehend the level of work required for a full ride scholarship. And it was going into finals time. I think I almost broke down crying until I realized that I did have a friend in the graduation program. She agreed to meet with me and help me hash out exactly what I needed to do. She'd been working on hers for years. She expressed some skepticism about the scholarship competition I was engaged in. But she said, better go for it. You don't want to end up like me. I got so many loans. I'll never be out of debt. I struggled to maintain my composure in response to that. What? So if I fail to write a thesis in 2 weeks, I'll end up with huge debt for the rest of my life? The pills in my backpack started to make some sense. They made it almost easy, actually. I went to class, studied for finals, and worked on my paper. I did it all. Everything except sleep. Putting the pills in the coffee, I felt horrible, but I was awake. And working 24 hours a day was all that mattered. I had to get that scholarship. I had to. I thought I could actually make the deadline, but halfway there, a week in, I could feel my body starting to give out. I hadn't slept in, a week and a half, and hadn't slept at all. I hadn't slept well in a week and a half and hadn't slept at all in 6 days. And there was still another week to go. I went to my neighbor to ask for more pills. He was sick, sniffling, and talking to him filled me with disgust. He just seemed gross, full of snot and spit. And his eyes were all bulgy. I took the pills and got out of there. I started doubling the dose. Then I tripled it. I reached this strange polenta of pained awareness and strained energy that kept me working straight through the next week. I knew that what I was doing was dangerous, but I had to do it. It would be worth it. I was going to win that scholarship. I knew it. I hit the wall the day before it was due, staring at the massive paper I produced just a few days from the end, the most critical portion, the conclusion. All escaped me. I couldn't form the words in my head. I couldn't think the things I needed to type out. I blinked a few times, trying to get my head straight. I was on my laptop in the library. I looked around in tired confusion. My dorm room, the library, and class had all become a blur as a few days without sleep melded into one another. It was night and the library was quiet. Beyond the breathy exhaustion running around my eyes, my every feeble movement, I suddenly felt uneasy. My own fragment beneath rasped and echoed in my head. My own fragment breath rasped and echoed through my head. That much I'd gotten used to, but now, alone in the library in the middle of the night, I could hear something else breathing. Carefully packed up my laptop and research books, staying as quiet as I could. I saw nothing strange, but I had this hunch that I really needed to get out of there. I took the back way around around the stacks, trying not to make a scene. About 4 rows down, I heard the wet, organic smacking sound. My eyes burned from the sheer effort of looking around. I froze. Was there something in the library with me? My ears found it then, as I saw it down the aisle a few feet over. I peered around the corner. A strange, fleshy mass pushed itself towards me. Staring terrified, I turned to figure out what it was. It had these limbs, skin all stretched and flabby, and the whole monstrous thing pulsed with this throbbing. It was like a disgusting, glistening sack of flesh and pulsing organs, textured sickeningly, and hair poking out of its random places. The wet smacking sound, the mouth, an orifice into the horrific things, bone sticking out from the gummy ridges inside. God, I remember every moment staring at that thing. And then it turned these white, moist things at me, and I knew it could see me. And I knew it could see me. It made a gurgling, wheezing sound and moved towards me more quickly. I bolted. Yeah, screw it. I'm a small girl, and I ran like hell. What would you do? There was another one in the stairwell. It almost ran straight into it. There was another one in the stairwell. Almost ran straight into it. It made a weird, high-pitched noise and then reached one throbbing limb for me. The skin seemed stretched by stringy veins, pushing it with some foul liquid. I ran again. I had a knife already. A knife already, you know. I'm not from a great neighborhood. It was about that then that I knew I might have to use it. Those horrible creatures were in the library, and I had to escape it at any cost. I had to finish my paper. Knife held out. I ran down and for the front door. Another creature stood at the door, shambling and rasping. It squealed at me. Expanding. Its middle expanding as it drew in breath, preparing for some sort of attack. No doubt. Through the glass doors outside, I could see a distant campus security uniform. Salvation, or at least help. I slashed the creature across its expanding middle, tearing the sporty flesh apart. And it seemed to immediately release all sorts of acrid acid, quivering in organs, red and brown and purple, and I couldn't help but puke, tears streaming down my face. I never had seen anything so disgusting. Leaving the ruptured sack of flesh on the ground, I ran for the front door. I remember the moment, screaming for help. The uniformed figure quickly came over and approached me quickly. It was one of them. I stabbed that too. Sliced it up and ran for my dorm room. I'm not sure what I was thinking. I was fully awake from the shock. That was for sure. I finished my paper, covered in blood, and submitted it. They came for me maybe an hour later. I can't remember it, but apparently I was just sitting there smiling. Hadn't even tried to sleep. Then you know the rest, and you people tell me that I had an episode, that my filters were fired, and that I was just seeing humans the way they really look, without familiarizing or recognition, and that doesn't make me feel better. I still see tissues and pulsing, stringy veins, throbbing organs, looses of sacks of flesh. When I look at myself, you stay behind the mirror, keep me isolated. Am I still broken? What if I never get better? Keep my family away, keep my gran away. Can't see them like this. God, I'm so tired. Where's that coffee you promised? I can hear you drinking it back there. Give it to me! Going over the poor girl's transcript, I had a vague flash of memory. This girl is a recent admission. I ran to her mail room and checked the shredded trash. I thought I had seen something, and there it was. Someone had sent a letter to this address. It arrived before she did. It hadn't made any sense at the time, and it only randomized, being to one to do the mail, the day due to the nurse's sick day. Congratulations, the piece said. You're one of the remaining candidates. To qualify for the next round, please submit within 3 weeks a 4,000-page... I froze for a moment, staring at the crumpled scrap. A dark, wounded suppression washed over me. The rest of the typed letter was shredded away, and I couldn't find the envelope or any relevant names of contract information in the piles of paper stripped beneath. No matter. That was enough. Something was going on, and this was proof enough to start some sort of investigation. Interesting, the chief of medicine told me, reading the paper. He leaned back in his large leather chair. This doesn't match the story you told me. I think something bigger is going on here, I said. What's the matter? He replied quite seriously. There's more to this story than just writing her off as crazy. Doesn't it warrant investigation? She still sees people as monsters, and she's still carved up as a security officer and a classmate, he replied. So someone played a prank with this scholarship thing? She's still the one who didn't sleep for weeks and gave herself brain damage. Aren't you more interested? I asked, growling a little angry. This is something, at the very least, we uncovered some sort of dangerous fraud scholarship. That's not our job. I suddenly clued in the fact that he was absolutely not going to help or condone further investigation of any sort. And anyway, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I lied gracefully. He smiled and looked to be right. On my way out, he said one last thing. I've heard reports that you're engaging in some odd behaviors yourself, reading files for late hours late in the night, that sort of thing. Don't get too close to these patients. Don't regard their stories as anything other than fabrications of their obsessed minds. Why? I asked. Afraid crazy is contagious? Quite stern, he set his jaw and gave no response. My comment had been flip-handed, but his grim response gave the pause. I'm now convinced that something more is going on. Not just with the latest girl, but with other patrons as well, and I'm starting to wonder if we have something to do with